You didn't even see the best part.
Nice. I think you should sit that way like you're a professional wrestler. Sit with your back to us, and then we introduce you, and then you come around.
Oh, that's cool.
Welcome to the Business Over Beer Happy Hour, a daily dose of support for business owners, entrepreneurs, and people passionate about what they do. Hosted by Ben Surratt, Jonathan Kaler, and Jason Knope, it's time to grab a beer, enjoy some cheer, and join together.
Well, hello, everybody. It's Sunday. It's Sunday Fun Day. It's the Business Over Beer Happy Hour special edition. And I'm staring at some wonderful looking people, but there's one person I want to talk to right now. Mr. Respect the Hair himself. Some people call him the Space Cowboy, but no. We call him Spartacus, Mr. Jonathan Kaler. Hello, Jonathan. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday, Ben. Thank you for that great introduction, as usual. You always make me feel good. Man, here we are. We're on a Sunday. I can't figure out if it's the end of a week or the beginning of the next week, but either way, I'm so happy to be spending it with you guys. And speaking of the happy hour, speaking of things that are happy, are you down with the KNOPP?
Yeah, you know me.
And he is the gift that keeps on giving. Hashtag respect the head. Jason Knope, welcome to Happy Hour, my friend. How you feeling on this fine Sunday evening?
I'm feeling fantastic, except for what happened to the gangster at Hazeldale?
Well, you know, it's Sunday.
It's Sunday.
We're in prime
Well, that's only
time.
for the week. That's during the week.
I don't want to scare all the kids who might be watching. You know, I mean, we're kind of in the Disney hour, so it's.
I got you.
More the PG version tonight.
Certainly.
But tomorrow night.
Okay.
That's a different story.
That's a different story.
Hey, Knope, do we have a guest?
We have a fantastic guest tonight. We have Jenifer Hoff from KOIN 6 News.
Oh, is it my turn now?
Hey, Jenifer!
Jenifer! Gosh, thank you so much for joining us on the Happy Hour.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm really excited.
Well, I'm glad that your standards are low for doing your first podcast. If you had higher standards, you'd do a much bigger and better podcast than ours. But hey, we're glad nonetheless. So,
well, as I've been told, things can only go up from here. So
that's true.
I figured
100%.
I'd start here, right?
Yes,
100%.
Absolutely. Hey, we all got to slum it every once in a while, so it's fine. I get it.
I am excited. Yeah, we've been talking about doing this for a really long time, so we're finally making it happen amidst a global pandemic. So we do what we do.
In the middle of the craziest circumstances, and one of those events that we'll look back on, that's a once in a lifetime kind of deal. So, in all seriousness, we really appreciate you taking the time and joining us tonight.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm an open book. I'm ready to chat, to listen, and to have some beer too. So. Oh,
I like the sound of that. Well, all right. So you're an open book, chapter 1. We always start with your business and what you're into. So you're a local news anchor. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what goes into that, and maybe include something that maybe people don't realize. They wouldn't expect that you do as a news anchor. So just kind of give us the broad brush strokes of your job and what you're in.
Oh, sure. So I've been at KOIN TV, the CBS affiliate in Portland, for about 6 years now. We moved out here from Madison, Wisconsin. My husband is a local photographer as well, works in the biz. And I'm on evenings 4, 5, 6, 10, and 11 now on our newly acquired CW and CBS. So yeah, it's a blast every day. It's something different every day. I don't think I could sit at a desk job every day. So I like that things change all the time. And on top of it being just it is fun every day. We've got a wonderful group of people there, but we certainly, especially now, are providing quite a service to folks and the information that they need. So, yeah.
I mean, you're a news anchor, and one of the things that everybody sees is you sitting at a desk every day. So talk about that. So how is your job not a desk job? Kind of help us understand, you know, what.
Okay, I get that. I'll give you that.
What is it about being a news anchor that actually is not a desk job, even though that's what most of us see of you day in and day out?
Sure, good point. I think just because the content is so different every day, and even though like physically what I'm doing is the same, mentally, how we're preparing, how I'm writing, what happens, emotions, it's different from hour to hour. So in that sense, yeah, it's exciting. You never really know what's going to happen. I mean, we have certainly a structure to our day, but that could be blown up in seconds. So in that sense, it's always good to be on your toes. There has to be a little bit of fear and nerves every day, or you can't get too comfortable in this job.
I bet.
Yeah, I can relate to that. You guys?
Oh, definitely.
Well, that's awesome. So let's take a minute. We've got a bunch of people watching. Angie and Lori are watching. Hi, guys. Brittany jumped on, and Brian, and Tracy, and Meryl and Kaylor, no relation, just a total coincidence. My mom. Krista is joining us, our good friend Krista, who is a college friend of mine. She says, nice shirt. Here I am. I'm repping the Flyers tonight. Repping my roots from the Midwest. Joey is on, and Elizabeth Bergen, of course, BC1 is joining us. Hello to everyone. If you're watching, if you're listening, give us a wave or let us know you're out there and say hello.
Totally.
Ben.
Yeah, Jenifer, we're going to get into your business and how things have changed since the COVID-19 stuff. But this is business over beer.
It is.
And Jonathan, I am thirsty.
You look thirsty.
I'm very thirsty.
It's happy hour, Ben. Let's make the world happy.
Well, I'm going to start.
Get it.
So I went to our good friends at Ben's Bottle Shop in Vancouver, and I got myself gigantic.
Ooh.
It's called the Smack Dab Hazy IPA.
Nice.
Yes.
That is fantastic. Gigantic is such a great local brewer. I don't know how they do it. They come out with new releases like daily, it seems.
And they're
The
delivering.
hazy, that's good.
And they're delivering.
Are they delivering too?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
What are you drinking?
Well, I tried to think of something that would represent us, that would represent this show. I went on a very short search for some Minnesota beer and came up empty, unfortunately. Tough to find. I wish I would have thought of it sooner and maybe would have had some mail ordered, but didn't think that far ahead. So as many of you know, of course, this show was born during a beer meeting that Ben and I had on a Sunday afternoon, much like today at Hopworks. So I grabbed a Hopworks beer, and of course Hopworks, they have locations now on both sides of the river. And so we've got Portland represented, and of course we've got Vancouver represented. So I couldn't think of a better brewery than Hopworks to represent the show. And this is the Upstream Salmon Safe India Pale Ale.
Looks good. Jenifer, what did you bring?
Is it my turn? I'm going to go with the beer I've been drinking for probably 2 years, if not more. I'm doing the Fort George City of Dreams.
Ooh.
I love me a good hazy. And I had to represent Minnesota because we've been talking football, Ben, for a long time.
Yes.
But because we're all missing baseball right now, especially, I got to bring out the Minnesota Twins glass.
That's awesome.
So I'm going to have my hazy in the Twins glass and represent hardcore.
You are awesome. Canope, what are you drinking?
I'm sure he got something from the Midwest to represent our roots. Oh, look at what he's got. He's pulling out. He's pulling out the.
It's grandma's cooler.
Grandma's cooler.
It's some serious business today, folks. Oh, he's
and I've got myself some Lamp Coast Lager from Mount Tabor Brewing.
Nice. All right. Get into that. Yeah, Jenifer, good point you brought up about how we were talking football for a while, and that's kind of how we connected via the Twitterverse. But I remember when I first tweeted you, it was when the Vikings beat the Saints. And
Really?
I think so. It was that touchdown.
Not the Minneapolis Miracle.
Was it that? I think it was that one.
Wow, that was a long time ago then.
2018?
Wow.
Yeah. And you had that jersey on, and I was watching the news. I was watching KOIN 6, and it was like towards the end, and you have this jersey on, and I'm like, I thought she had a little bit of the
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's not a little bit, it's a lot. And after I drink this, it might come out a little bit more.
That's
So
awesome.
we're counting on that.
So
Awesome. Well, happy
cheers.
happy hour.
Happy hour.
Prost.
Pros.
Yay. Mm.
Ooh, that's good.
That is delicious. Very juicy. If you like juicy hazies, it'll be one for you.
Nice.
How about yours, Kaylor?
I do love a good hazy, but we were saying earlier, I don't like them super sweet. I don't like them super thick, and hazies can be very heavy depending on what you like. So this, I tend to stick with something that I like, which can be good. I mean, I'm good at like branching out if I have to, but once I kind of find what I like, I tend to stick with it. So I don't hardly sway from this beer right now. And
That's
it's been
awesome.
good to me for a while, so I'm going to stick with it.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I always call that, I call that the house beer, right? It's something you've always got it in the house, and maybe you'll pick up something else here or there. You try something when you go out, but you know what? You've got that staple in the house at all times. So that's your house beer.
Yeah, maybe it's not the typical house beer, because I think maybe like a lighter beer or a Pilsner or something would be a better. In the hot summertime, we do like a Rainier or a Coors, but I do like something a little bit meatier, hoppier. So I do keep the hazy around quite a bit, even though it's one beer and I'm like feeling pretty good on a summer afternoon. So.
I can't wait till we get her into Angie's mystery beer.
Oh, wow.
Oh, man.
Oh, that sounds dangerous.
It
Probably wouldn't
is.
be live for that one.
No. So Jenifer, from Minnesota, born and raised.
Clearly, yeah.
Right? Yeah. How did you end up in broadcasting and in news?
It's kind of a funny story. I went to the University of Minnesota, obviously, and I wanted to be an interior designer. I had no plans on being in broadcasting or journalism. Always loved to write, but never thought much of it. And my first year at school was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. There was no socializing, there was no partying, there was no very stereotypical freshman year. You worked your butt off in this first year of the program to get accepted. And I did not get accepted. So that was, as a young kid, that's all you wanted to do. Somebody saying no to me for the first time, really, in that sort of large environment was devastating. It was a very expensive program, between drafting boards and vellum and pencils, and I mean it was architecture really from the ground up. It wasn't just decorating, it was interior designing. And so I kind of just messed around for my next couple of years, debated on even staying at the U and what I wanted to do. And I just kind of like stumbled into the J school and started writing and loved it. Absolutely loved it. So,
what were you writing at the time?
I worked for my local newspaper for several years, wrote for them. We had a magazine class at school that we wrote for. I never did get with the paper at school, which I wish I would have, but just that's a huge commitment, and I have the utmost respect for the Minnesota Daily. But it's ironic because I went in to write a magazine article on a longtime CBS anchor in Minneapolis, Don Shelby, and I walked into WCCO and I was like, okay, I get it now. And so that was my first sort of introduction to TV. And you have to choose in journalism school, do you want to do the print track or do you want to do the broadcast track? And I chose broadcast from that point on, and the rest is history. So
wow. So what besides, before we go into, you know, the pandemic and all that, we know that's changed things. What things has changed for you just in the journalism and in broadcasting since you started to today?
Like actually started my career?
Yeah, like what things have changed?
Where do I begin? It's amazing, because I would say the biggest changes have probably happened within the last like 5 years. So I've been pretty lucky. I wouldn't say I've been in the heyday of TV, but I think even back then things were, you know, there were just much more things available to you, resources and staffing and things like that. You know, a lot of places and people, you have to tighten the belt a little bit. And so we definitely see some changes over the years. And yeah, so.
Has technology been the biggest change?
I probably not really the best one to speak to that, because I'm not in the field as much as I used to be. But as you know, the simple things from Facebook and the phone. Yeah, I didn't go to school and there was no Facebook. I mean, that was when you had to use a school email address to even get on Facebook. So to have it as part of, you know, doing live shots and getting viewers and, you know, promoting things, that was never a part of the curriculum or anything we talked about. So in that simplest form, yeah, no, that's huge. That's huge to really learn how to use that to your advantage. So,
I mean,
but still, to me, TV is TV. If you can't get someone to turn the TV on, doesn't matter how many Facebook followers you have. Is it good to have them maybe see you and go, oh, I kind of like her? Sure, that's great. But if they don't turn the TV on to watch you, then it doesn't much matter.
Makes sense. Absolutely.
So to me, they are still somewhat separate, but I do understand why you have to be on that stuff all the time.
So you talk about people turning the TV on. So how do you continue to get people to turn the TV on, you know, now in the age of cutting the cord and streaming? And of course, you know, you had mentioned social media. I was going to say, I mean, it's not only about using Facebook for your live shots, but I mean, using these social media platforms to actually generate stories, right? And actually find newsworthy items. So what is the state of network news now in light of all of this? How do you guys as a station try to build your strategy against all of these sort of headwinds that that cause people not to want to turn on the local news day in and day out? How do you guys kind of combat that and work around those constraints?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. I think the core of it has always been the same. And as cliche as that sounds, if you're not providing the facts, if you're not someone who is frankly likable, or if you're not providing, you know, relatable, great content. And I'm a proponent of, I mean, this is why 60 Minutes does so well. I'm a proponent of long format, a bit more in-depth pieces. It only works though in so many environments. You can't do that in a 6 o'clock newscast. There's no time for it, and the majority of people's attention isn't there anymore. They don't want that, but it does work in certain places. So I think the core of that has to be the same. If you're not providing that, then what are you doing? I think then you can kind of go in and sprinkle in little things, whether it's, I personally love our set. If you've got something that looks good and is eye-catching and can help us, you know, sort of showcase the news in a great way, then people are going to want to look at that. As simple as that. I think my core, I love my team more than anything. Our genuine connection and likability, we love each other, and I think that shows. And so I think that's important. You can sprinkle in all the other, you know, trends here and there and see what works and what you got to throw stuff at the wall nowadays and see what works and what doesn't. So
Well, I think that's an important point. I think for any business owner or any industry or business, right,
Good
is
point.
understanding your core, right? What are the things that make your business work? And news is no different than podcasting, no different than insurance, or no different than a retail outlet, right? It's all the same kind of thing. You got to try to figure out what works, but if you don't understand your core and you can't do the fundamentals of your industry or your business, then all the other little things that you sprinkle in, none of that matters. So
Yeah, and I think there's a difference. Like TV can be pretty dated, and I understand it might be a model that is maybe dying, but I don't think it'll ever go away. I mean, appointment TV doesn't really exist anymore. I mean, a lot of people aren't going to sit down and say, it's 6 o'clock, we're going to turn the TV. I mean, we hope you do, but certainly you need a draw for people, but that's where some of those other things can come into play. We will be there. We will be that constant for the folks who need the TV and who want, there's a huge population that we serve that way, but then that's when the podcasts and digital and feeds and Facebook and our app and that are all going to come into play for people who don't have time to sit down and watch a newscast.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Kano.
That goes back to that core, whether you're watching it in the app or seeing a story on Facebook, the core of that is always going to be the same: accurate, factual, timely information.
right.
I would think some of the things that might draw audiences in that you work with are some of the series that you lead, like Women Crush Wednesday, highlighting local women and girls in the community, and some other things like the KOIN 6 Unsolved.
Yeah.
Are you finding that those types of things are bringing in viewers? They're turning on the TV for those things?
I certainly hope so. I'm not real one into big numbers. I mean, we kind of pay people to do that, and we have people who look into that. I just kind of if it works, it works, and if I feel like something went well, and someone will certainly tell me if it's not working right. So the Women Crush Wednesday, if I could kind of toot my own horn a little bit, has been amazing. I mean, there was nobody doing that anywhere in the country on TV. Women Crush Wednesday was online, and I wanted to capitalize on that hashtag and that idea, but nobody was taking it up to TV. And still that was, I think it was late 2018 I started it. People are craving that kind of news, and it's everywhere. It's all in our own backyard, and nobody's tapping into it enough. I mean, you're giving people an opportunity to have a say in your content. People love that. They want to feel like, hey, I saw something, or I'm doing something. And then you take that and run with it. They like that sort of feeling involved. And then you're just showcasing good news on top of that. And it's been a very diverse group of women who I have highlighted. Plus, we do look at specific demographics of who is watching TV, going back to what you said. And I mean, I think that just hits it perfect. I mean, it could be, we're trying to get maybe younger people or stay-at-home moms or mothers or working mothers, and this is really highlighting what they're doing. And the reaction has been awesome.
That's awesome. And you talk about the camaraderie that you have with your coworkers. And when we talked just today, even, you could tell just by the expression on your face that this whole COVID-19 thing has really just, it hurts everybody and affects everybody. But what we're trying to do with this is kind of highlight it. Like I told you before, you don't get the enormity of what we're in, but when I saw your picture of the separation you have between you and your coworkers, it really put like, wow, this is serious, and it's affecting everybody. So maybe just tell a little bit about what steps you're doing now to help with this social separation.
Yeah, so I think our job is really unique, and it's really hard to figure out how to do that. So it took us a minute to kind of figure out what we should be doing, but I think that's, like every business and every person, school, to try to figure out exactly how the right way to be doing this. When this all first started, I think we all kind of got our feet under us now, but we are blessed with a wonderfully huge studio. So all the anchors are there, which I was fine with. Right away, I said, look, I believe we're essential enough that we should be there. If you can get everybody else out of the newsroom, I would still feel comfortable going to work. So I have literally, up until last weekend, and I can tell you what we did that was within the confines of that, but I literally haven't left my house. I mean, I went from work to home, work to home, work to home. And I thought that was okay. Now our producers, our web people, they've all started working from home weeks ago. Like one guy's been gone 6 weeks already. So, and then on top of that, we've all spaced out within the newsroom. KOIN also has 3 floors of the KOIN tower. So we have the ability to do that and the space to do that and really spread out. Photogs and reporters have been paired up with only each other, for weeks. They use the same gear. They've been assigned to the same gear, the same car. But my husband, for example, who's a photographer, him and his reporter haven't even met up. They get their assignments at 10 in the morning during the editorial meeting. They will then connect with each other on the phone. Lisa will often set up the interviews just like we're doing on Zoom. Mike will record it. She can then log it and write it, send the script to Mike back home, and then he can edit it from here and then send it to work. If they happen to be the crew that has the live gear, they will only meet up to go live. And even then, they can keep their distance. They have their microphones now on huge boom mics that are long enough. So they do that with their reporters as well as anyone they're interviewing, if it's in the field. But they've usually just been Zoom interviews. So a lot of changes, which is very hard in our job. It's just not how we're used to doing things. And in the studio, yeah, it makes me emotional because I'm thankful I have a job. I'm thankful I get to go every day, but a newsroom is built on only the people who are there, and the camaraderie and the locker room-esque that it has is real. And to not have that every day, but then to still have to go on TV and be happy. And, it's been awkward. It's been really draining and a bit down. So
we talk about this all the time, and the hardest thing that we've had, I mean, even just, I love people. I love talking to people. I can tell. Yeah. And it's more draining now for me, at a personal level. It's more draining now than it was if I had to physically go and meet with somebody.
Right.
Have you experienced stuff like that?
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. I've done a couple Zoom interviews and it's been fine, but I think the best example of that is we had our chief meteorologist, Natasha Stenbach, was at home for a while, and I couldn't quite put my finger on why it wasn't working. I couldn't there's a delay, there's some tech problems, it doesn't look as good, you're clearly not in that small space. We're really good at timing too. We're really good at like, all right, Jeff is hilarious and a hoot, and then we also know when to move on. And so timing is very important, and none of that exists anymore. So that was pretty terrible. I was crabby, I was down, I was just not in a good space for quite a while. She has since come back and things have improved. So while we're not like near each other in the studio, just having her there is a huge difference. So yeah, in the emotional sense of things and that ability to connect with people. And our job then is to probably bring it even more. You have to be, 120% then, so that the viewers don't pick up on some of that. But we're just like everybody else. Some days been pretty crummy and some days are fine. So
what advice do you have?
When we first started doing the happy hour, we were doing audio live streams. We weren't on Facebook. And I mean, I remember those first couple of shows, it was like we had started over, because, for us, there's 3 of us, and of course we play off each other, and we can read the room, and we do these interviews in a room with each other, and we were getting to the point where we could read each other's minds. We knew who was going to ask the next question. We knew what question they were going to ask, and so I think we certainly can relate to that. And even in this setting where you have even the Facebook Live or the Zoom, where I can look at Ben in the face or I can see somebody's reaction, and it's still not the same. There's still that human energy and that human element, especially in a business like yours, where in that newsroom where it's all about collaboration, it's all about energy, it's all about ideas and bouncing things off of each other. I can only imagine how difficult of an adjustment that must be for you. So I can totally appreciate where you're coming from on that.
Well, very well said. Yeah, totally. I mean, especially imagine then sitting next to the same person for 6 years. I mean, there are certainly anchor combos out there who have been together longer, but that's Jeff and I together that long is pretty admirable. And so I'm right there with you. I know exactly what he's going to say. I know exactly the joke he's about to make. We can just bounce off of each other like you wouldn't believe. It's one of my favorite things that have come from working here for so long.
How are you combating that? How are you combating that feeling of being separated like that? And how do you give yourself 120% every day?
Really good question. I don't know. If I'm being honest, I don't know some days how I get through it. I think I still just at the core really love my job and know that I'm there for a purpose, and I give more of so I can get through that just fine. I think we've all had really good energy has never really been a problem. But as far as I give all of the credit to Jeff. He is the joke teller. He is the one he can read you in a second and know you're down and will do something. And so any of that to boost the mood a little bit to help us sort of get through maybe that last half hour or whatever it may be. I give him all the credit for that. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, he's hilarious and he's a good ear to listen to. So or to if I go to him with anything. So that goes back to that teamwork and all that. It's why we all get along so well. So you're just there to boost each other up.
Yep.
Well, it's an interesting battle, isn't it? Because here we are, we're in this situation and we know it's temporary, but it just feels like it's never going to end. Right. And so we come to work every day and we do this and it's like, I don't want to do it this way, even though I know I have to. I know I got to do it this way and it's not going to be forever. So that's okay. But some days it's like, is this ever going to end? And it's that constant battle kind of back and forth that some days are just better than others.
Yeah. And that's okay. That's okay. That's okay.
Sure.
I think for a normal person, but when you have to be on TV every day, you do have to be at your best. But I think just knowing that you're giving it your all, and even a lot of what we do is very repetitive too, but that's okay because again, not everyone watches TV every hour, so much less a couple days a week. Your average person is watching a newscast once every 3 days or something. So to know that you're continuing to give that information, even if it is the same throughout the afternoon, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hey, we have a question, I think, from the crowd here. Brittany asks, do you know if news broadcasting is going to go into more paid or even free online live streaming to get a larger and potentially younger audience? I think you spoke a little bit to that, but Brittany was wondering that.
I think you'll see certain, never a newscast. I have strong ethics and a strong line between that sales department and your newsroom should be nowhere near one another. That is reserved for, AM Northwest or, AM Extra or something where, if you've got a product or a business on there, then there's probably a salesperson involved somewhere. That should not go in a newscast, period. But newscasts are streamed on our website if people would want to watch that. But a paid streaming, that's would never be, because this is a service provided to the public. No one should have to pay for a newscast. If you want to pimp your product on there, then again, there's maybe some space for that, but certainly not in an evening newscast. But she could always watch it online or something, if that makes sense.
Sure. I've been asking we've had a lot of small business owners and entrepreneurs on since this has all been going down. And the one thing you touched on a little bit is adapting and accepting what you have now. And I always ask our guests, is there anything that you're learning now that this is teaching you that you can apply to when normal comes back?
You have very good questions. As far as how I do my job, or as far as how news is?
Both, I think.
Boy, I think it has just really reiterated a commitment to truth and facts, and know that the people on this local level have no agenda and no bias, man. We're just trying to get through the day like everybody else. And the people I work with, the same. I mean, there's no larger agenda here. We've never been taught that. We don't operate that way. So I think just, being recommitted to that, I think is very important. But on a more maybe personal level, it just makes you really appreciate the relationships with people. And
amen to that. Mm-hmm.
So I think that's okay.
Totally.
One of the things that we talk about on this show quite a bit, obviously we're big proponents of small businesses, and the brewery community is a huge part of that small business in our geography, both in Portland and in Vancouver. And we talk about friendly competition, right? We talk about the breweries who, I mean, they do a lot of collaborating. They obviously want to win. They want to beat each other. They all want to brew the best beer.
I know where this is going.
But there is a friendly competition there, and I'm assuming that you probably have a fairly tight-knit local news community. I would assume it's a similar sort of feeling amongst the local news stations. Talk a little bit about that friendly competition. Kind of talk about the news community, and what is it that makes KOIN stand out against your competition, but also what is it that really brings you all together as a singular community, and what do you guys try to do more holistically to serve the community as local news stations?
Wow, you guys have awesome questions. The first part of that, I think I would say, what makes KOIN stand out, I think we, for a long time there, our watching out for you brand isn't just a saying. I mean, we lived and breathed that. And I fully support, getting back to that in a bit more in-depth way. I think it stood out. People glommed onto that idea, and we lived it. Every story that was pitched, every story we did, was following the money, was digging deeper, was going beyond the headlines. They weren't just sayings. Like we really lived it, and I was very proud of those few years. And we're, sometimes things happen and you just kind of get away from things a little bit. And we've just had started to like re-energize some of that when COVID-19 happened. So I do appreciate that. Again, I think it comes down to talent. I think our group is really incredible. I think our set is one of the best in the market. I think really our talent stands out quite a bit. It's an interesting dynamic because right before I got here, I don't think KOIN was much of a player in the market, and we've really come a long way. And so of the 4 stations, it's great to have that competition. That's what makes people work harder. That's great. And so for quite a while, there wasn't really anybody who stood out all that much, which is great. I think we're all really fighting and clawing for the top spot. But as a whole, we're all doing the same thing. We all, there are certain people who, again, care about numbers and want to look at all that. Who's number 1? Who's number 3? I don't, if you go and do your job to the best of your ability every day, great. I mean, we're all just trying to go home to our families and, you know, put out the best product we can. So in the field and stuff, for the most part, everybody really gets along. We understand what everyone's gone through to get here and how hard they work every day. So there isn't that weird stereotypical like infighting either amongst us. So.
Wait a minute. I mean, I watched Anchorman. I
No,
know
no,
Ben.
no. Don't
I know
even
what's
go
in
there. I
Anchorman.
knew you'd bring that up.
You're not throwing people into the tiger bin at Oregon Zoo. Come on, I don't believe that.
I mean, there's probably been a few here or there that wanted to, but you know, there's bad apples in every profession. So there are people who, you know, make a bad name for everybody, but no, most people are just grinding and doing the best they can. So the interesting thing about KOIN, the one thing about research that I have pulled away that I have always appreciated but never had the right answer for is research will often show that when you put a group of people to watch all the newscasts, they often will choose KOIN. The problem is people are very stuck in their habits and very stuck in their ways. And so you have, you know, the KGWs and the KPTVs that really have stood out for years. That's what people will just often turn to. So our job is to, well, how can we get them to change the channel? Because clearly when they finally watch us and see us, they seem to like KOIN. So it's been a matter of, okay, well, how can we get them to change the channel after being dedicated viewers of someone else for years? So.
Well, I'm obsessed with strategy and tactics. I'm curious then to follow up on that. Then, you know, whose responsibility is that? So what do those conversations look like? Is that something that you and your other anchors, the other talent are part of, or is that the news directors or the general manager? Like, what are those conversations around strategy as far as, you know, we got to develop this set, or we want to try to stand out with this type of news story, or we want to be the best in sports, or what do those strategic conversations look like behind the scenes, and who's driving that?
You know, we're not usually involved, I don't think, in the very beginning of those. You know, we're kind of like the person who will just execute it. So if you want to tell us what works and what your research shows, so be it. Like we'll then execute it to the best of our ability. Certainly Jeff and Dan and I can have a say in that, but yeah, that some of that I just kind of stay out of too. There's focus groups and research people from all over the country who come in and work on the very specific stuff of that frankly I would rather stay out of too. I trust that they know what they're doing and make the best decisions for that. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Cool. Canope, go.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of people that don't realize how much work and effort and preparing goes into stories. When there's a big breaking story in our region, like the refugee takeover as an example, how much is involved on a daily basis preparing and reporting? How much of a toll does it take on you? And it seems like a huge undertaking.
Yeah, it's a lot. So, I mean, every single person has to work together. So just on a daily scale, you have the assignment editors who are watching email come in, taking tips, taking phone calls, researching other stations and newspapers and story ideas. Then they're sort of disseminating that to the reporters, and then the reporters hop on the phone. You're making phone calls, setting up interviews, confirming info, setting up interviews, and then logging those interviews, writing, which comes out to sometimes about 2 minutes, which is, you know, a minute and a half, 2 minute long story, but it's, you know, it's a lot that goes into that, and then turned over to the photog who edits it all together, and then setting up a live shot, tuning in a live shot, figuring out, driving all over Timbuktu trying to find these things. So the day goes by very quickly when you don't usually get started until after 10 o'clock, and then you're live at 4. So the day-to-day stuff is pretty crazy. Pretty much by 4 things settle down, because then you're usually working on your 5 o'clock. So between the 4 and the 5, the photographer will edit the package for the 5, and then the 5 to 6, depending on what's in the 6. So the day slows a little bit by then, but then you're live 4, 5, 6. which is a lot of energy and setting things up now in a breaking news situation. Like the Malheur takeover was incredible. We were the only station to stay out there for 41 days, the entire length of it. So that was, yeah, my husband was covered. How long were you out there, Mike?
Whoa.
Probably 2 weeks, I think. So yeah, it's dedication. And same with the Eagle Creek wildfire was another huge story that comes to mind that we covered. It's just, people it's not just, oh, my day's done at work, I'm going home. I mean, the hours that people work, it's pretty normal to work a 13-hour day, you know, and then I don't have kids, I don't have, you know, my family's not here. So to balance it is a little bit easier, but you balance a normal family life, school, kids. It's a lifestyle that is unlike most, that you kind of know what you're getting into, but holidays don't really exist to me. I'm like, oh yeah, Thanksgiving. Oh, I'm just going to work. Okay.
Oh, they call Thanksgiving in the news industry, don't you, Ben?
Yes.
What do they call it?
Turkey Day?
No, they call it Thursday.
Yeah. Yeah, the only difference is it's a little quieter in the newsroom because
have another beer, man. Gosh, you would had more beer, you would have laughed at that joke.
Sure.
Golly.
I got a good laugh out of it.
You are very active in the community too, and I want to make sure I give you time to. You're very the Susan G. Komen Foundation. You've done like you did the Dine for the Cure or Lunch for Cure and the Race for a Cure. So talk a little bit about that and explain how that's getting affected by everything too.
Yeah, so KOIN has a lot of really great sponsorships and partnerships with local groups, from Solve to Sunshine Division of Portland Police, Susan G. Komen of Southwest Washington, Oregon. I've been involved heavily with Komen for years. My mom is a 26-year breast cancer survivor and was diagnosed very young at just 41. So that puts me in a category as well of where I'm just really on top of my health. So it's just something I've been really passionate about. So yeah, Lunch for the Cure is something that I have emceed for, I think, 4 years now. And it's the start of their big fundraiser for the year in April, and that was canceled. So you're seeing this a lot with most large organizations around nonprofits around town that are really relying on, you're seeing them now move towards online fundraising. We just did a telethon with the Sunshine Division, but on TV. I mean, you're used to the big phone bank set up and the phone set up and people in house and guests, and can't do any of that anymore. So we've just had some long talks with Komen about how we're going to work with them specifically on helping them, just because we've just been partners for so long. So yeah, it's hard, and it's really different, especially with Komen, because you're dealing with a vulnerable population of people, and you're literally telling newly diagnosed people, well, you can't go get a biopsy, you can't go have your surgery, you can't. So, you know, the restrictions were just very different for cancer patients. So it was a different thing to try to navigate and tell them what they can and can't do. So yeah, it's been hard.
Wow.
We've talked about that on this show, on the happy hour, since this all started. And we talked about, I mean, the Brew Fest that supports a couple of different charitable organizations. We had Bill Cohen and Joey Yorchek on, who are big in the Alzheimer's and dementia community. You know, the Longest Day was canceled. So I mean, these charitable organizations, we can't forget about them. You know, so the different things that we're passionate about as people, as individuals, right now is a really good time. In addition to going and buying a gift card from a local small business, which is important, man, write a small check to a charitable organization. You know, they need our help so badly right now, because all of their fundraising activities have come to a stop. It's really a tough time.
And there's great websites out there that will tell you which are, you know, the right nonprofits and which one have, are really in fact that. GuideStar is a great one to look into. And it's just, people I think sometimes feel like they have to do these huge donations when really, it sounds cliche, but they're not kidding when they say like your $10 donation is greatly appreciated. For example, KOIN used to have their program where they would give money, straight up money for like gas or food and groceries to people. They've opened up that limit now. So if you are in need of that, say you live in Eastern Oregon and you're getting treatment at OHSU or something and you don't have the gas money to get there, now they've opened that wide open so people can get as much assistance as they need because they're probably not working right now. And so when you give to KOIN, that's where that money is going, most likely directly to that particular program. So, and research and other things, but just know right now that, they've opened, there's no limit anymore to how much money they want to give to their patients to be able to support themselves or get to a doctor's appointment or something like that. So
That's awesome.
That's great.
Another question from our viewers. Marilyn asks, as an anchor, how much input do you have into what news events and stories you report on?
good question. I really work hard at balancing that because my hardworking producers come in at 9 o'clock in the day, right, in the morning, and I come in at 2. So I can't walk in and say, no, change that, move that around. I don't like that, because they've worked their butt off for 6 hours before I get there. So I trust them, they trust me. So as far as content and story, that's all usually set by the time I get into work. But I am a very thorough person. I'm very anal. I have to have everything, pretty perfect. So what my job is then is I go through every script. So from 2:30, 3 o'clock until 3:45 when I go out there on set, I have read 2.5 hours worth of scripts, and I go in and I can change words, I can change tone and voice if it's not really written how I would read it. So in that sense, or I'm like, really checking facts. If it's a story we've covered for a while, making sure that it's all correct. But for the most part, that's why our producers are wonderful. I don't have to question a lot of that. So, and with being there now for some time under my belt, we've covered so much stuff. I have the context. So if I have to ad lib or sort of think back to, that story we covered, I can ad lib like nobody's business. So that's what's good with that. If you just give me the time, Jeff and I can bounce off one another pretty well. So.
What's the biggest blooper you've ever had? The funniest.
I don't really I don't really. I've always said I'm not going to be that person with their fame on YouTube.
Besides when you wore that Vikings jersey on.
Okay, yeah.
I was going to say.
I'm sorry. So how many games have the Bears won? Or Super Bowls do the Bears have?
Whoa, whoa.
Came after you, Ben. That's good. I was going to say the biggest blooper other than coming on the Business Over Beer podcast. Which,
yeah, good point, Kayla.
No, I refuse to be a YouTube clickbait person. I don't want any. I'm not going to go there.
You've never had one blooper?
To what extent? I've screwed up. I've said something wrong, but nothing that's going to anyone would ever know.
You don't had beer come out your nose on
Have you ever said the F word or shit or anything on live TV? Anything?
Nothing like that?
No.
Man.
No.
Hey, who's booking these guests? Who's getting consummate
I'm pretty
professionals
boring.
on our show?
I'm pretty
We
boring.
gotta get these consummate professionals off our show. We need people who are willing to say the F word on live air.
No, pretty square. Well, no, one time I remember Cor Harlan brought in some seaweed, OSU was making chips out of seaweed, and instead of, before you ate the actual baked seaweed, he gave you raw seaweed, and I spit it out on TV. I'm not all that interesting when it comes to that. But that's not what you're up there for. I I'm a serious professional. No. I'm
Nick,
thankful for that. I'm glad I don't have a response for
Oh,
that.
I bet. Yeah, I bet.
Nikki asked, what about giggles? Have you ever gotten a case of the
Oh
giggles on the
God.
air?
Oh God, yeah. That's my favorite though. Like Jeff and I would, when he gets me going, it's the best. It's the best. In fact, I have a little bear story. Our sports anchor, Adam Bjarnson, was in studio for the first time, and I don't know how long, but he was there on Thursday because of the draft, and it was just easier. And Joseph Dames was doing weather, and Joseph is from Illinois and is a Bears fan. Maybe we're just goofy too because it was a Thursday, but Jeff wrote, I could see him writing something, and we do the noise of when the draft pick is in, and Adam runs over and he goes, this just in, Joseph has been picked as a wide receiver for the Bears, and he runs over. You'd have to be there, I guess, but I laughed and laughed. Yes, it's my favorite thing, but again, you can't go on and on because people will, it starts to get to be inside baseball, or if there's a joke at the start of weather, you don't want to come back to it at the end of weather. 3.5 minutes is a long time in TV. No one will remember what you said at the start of weather. So you don't often want to go back to that joke because people are gone.
That's a good point.
Again, timing is very important. So, but again, that's part of our, they make me laugh and I got a pretty good laugh. I like laughing. So it's important.
It is important to laugh.
So no bloopers. How about, you've got a lot of journalistic credits in your career, I've noticed. Are there any in particular that you're especially proud of?
Like awards, do you mean, or? Just
anything in that you've done that you're particularly proud of in your career?
Yeah, I think being chosen as the only crew to go on our Badger Honor flight back in Wisconsin with the last of the World War II vets moving into, I'm gonna get this wrong, Korean War vets, I believe was the first, or was it? I can't remember now. We were the only crew asked to go because the last of the World War II had already all gone or, had chosen to go. So we went, and my husband and I went, woke up really early and joined all those men and women and took the flight to DC and the flight back within about 12 hours time, lugging our gear and telling their stories and going to all the war monuments in their honor. And I think we turned probably 4 or 5 stories from all the footage that was shot that day, but just connecting with them and having them being very aware of who wanted to open up and who didn't want to talk to you was also very special in a sense, because it helped you respect who wanted to talk about it and who didn't. So that trip, I think it was 2011, must have been 2011. It was also one of the government shutdowns, and so it was either 11 or might have been 11 or 12, whenever one of those shutdowns were, and they weren't going to be able to go. And I remember the guy in charge saying, we're going. These are public monuments that were built for these men and women, and we're going. And so we did, and we were the only news crew invited on that went. It was very memorable. So
that's awesome.
And to come back to Dane County Airport, Ben.
Oh, I bet.
6,000 people turning out to welcome.
That's huge.
Home. Yeah,
awesome.
It was very emotional. And in a job where you are not supposed to. I also told the line, anyone will tell you I'm a very emotional person. There are certain stories where it's okay, I think, for me to show that this clearly impacts me. This is my community. This is what I love. There are certain times where I'm not afraid to show how much something means to me. And when you have 6,000 people cheering for veterans who come home, I was like, so.
That's awesome.
That was pretty neat. Yeah, I think covering the eclipse here, my husband and I and another crew spent 4 days in Madras, the center of the best spot on our in our country to see that total solar eclipse and to report. I led that coverage. I field anchored our newscast from Madras. That was something else. And we got to stay at the house of one of the former mayors of Madras. He was also a volunteer firefighter, and he hosted about 12 people from every country that we just met some of the most amazing people. So yeah,
How many
really
people were there? How many people were there for that?
In Madras?
Yeah.
I think it ended up being 20-some thousand people. There were different campsites that would hold 5,000 to 6,000 tents. I'm probably getting that wrong. But it was a lot of people. And yeah, so we were very thankful to be able to stay up. We didn't have to stay in the tents down in the camps. We stayed at the former mayor's house and had a great overlook of the city. And of course, when we went and turned our stories, we were down in the thick of it. But yeah, those stand out quite a bit.
That's
but
awesome.
We've covered, there's so many great stories.
Well, I mean, in this day and age, our local news and news in general is so important to our country and to our freedom and to our democracy. And, the work that you and your colleagues do every day here in Portland and all across the country is such important work. And it gets a bad rap and it gets minimalized, for various reasons, for whatever that is. And, thank you so much for coming on today. Thanks for giving us just a little peek inside what you guys do every day. We are so appreciative of what you do. We're appreciative of what all of your colleagues do. And we're just, thank you so much for joining us today. It was really great. Really appreciate it.
It means more than you know, really, because we have entered a time that is very different for journalists. It's been very difficult. The actions and words that people choose to use when they're behind a keyboard and in person are unlike probably anything a lot of people have ever heard. It's very pointed and vulgar and scary sometimes. So I think some of us have become defensive and a little wary of even just that sort of compliment. So I appreciate that. When I say we're all just doing our best and trying to go home at the end of the day like everybody else, we are a group of very passionate storytellers who are just trying to do our best every day. And and we'll continue to do that. So.
Well, the world is a very gray place, and that is one of the things that I speak about. It's one of the things that I believe in. One of the things that drives my whole life is that we have to be better as a society of navigating these areas of gray. We get on these polar opposites and we dig our heels in, and I can't be right unless you're wrong too. And you guys in the news business have to walk that line every single day and just try to report the truth, whether we like it or not, whether it's right or wrong or good or bad. And it's a very, very difficult job. And when it goes against somebody else's perception of what they believe in their heart is the absolute truth,
yep.
Instead of trying to seek an understanding of what that might mean to them or mean to their community or mean to the people around them, unfortunately, we just kind of we go to vulgar places and we go on the attack and we get defensive and we start to blame people, and that's not what we're about here. That's not what I'm about. That's not what Business Over Beer is about. And so to have you on this show to talk about that, even in an abstract way, it's been really great. It's been a real pleasure and a privilege to have you on our show.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. I know I don't own a small business or have it. So, to sort of fit me into your idea of your podcast has been really great. So,
but you have the passion, and that's part of our mission is to get people on with passion, and you have it. You have it.
Thank you.
Can you show the people your microphone? Do it.
Yes, there it is. Let's get a plug in there. Come on, KOIN 6,
okay,
everybody.
Yeah, watch KOIN 6.
Yeah.
Jeff, Dan, and I would very much appreciate it.
Hey, Ben.
We all would like a job, right? I want to keep mine.
Hey, Ben, did you have some sort of challenge maybe that you were going to talk to Jenifer about?
I did. So, Jenifer,
We'll go first.
Mr. Canope, Mr. Jason Canope, Mr. Respect the Head over here, decided it would be a great opportunity to show support for small businesses in the community to do a challenge, kind of like the Ice Bucket Challenge. So we're doing the Business Over Beer Challenge, and we're each doing a challenge. So Canope was first, and you did what, Canope? You challenged people to do what?
Shotgun a beer.
Right. And if they didn't want to do that, they could also do what?
They had the option to go out to a local small business, purchase a gift card from them, go online on Facebook or their social media platform with a video of themselves with that gift card, tag the business who they purchased it from, tag Business Over Beer, and use the hashtag BizOverBeerChallenge so that we could see the video, who they're purchasing from, and we could also support those businesses as well.
And it's been great. It's been funny. A lot of great videos.
So does that mean Jenifer's going to shotgun a beer right here on Facebook Live?
I don't think
No, that's a big
no.
no.
Ben's
No.
got
Okay.
another-
so.
All right. Sorry, we're going a different direction. All right.
So, Jenifer, you inspired my challenge.
Cool.
And my challenge is, since we all miss sports, we miss baseball, we miss soccer, we miss football, we miss all of that. My challenge for the Biz Over Beer Support Your Local Small Business Challenge is toast another fan of any sport, like selfie, and put hashtag Biz Over Beer Challenge, supporting, repping your team. That's it. And anybody can do this.
So I take the picture and then send it to somebody who's my rival.
Or yeah, that would be even better. That would be cool. But anybody. And let's have them represent their team.
So I've been thinking about this, Ben. So for example, I don't really care for the New England Patriots. And we have a very close friend, John Bentley, who was on our program. You should go listen to his episode because it's fantastic. So I would then say, John, despite the fact that you're a New England Patriots fan, I toast positive to you.
Boom, I love it.
We would love to see the hashtag toast positive, our new very good friends in Wisconsin, the Copper State Brewery out of Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Ooh.
They are passing on hashtag toast positive. So I would say toast positive to the New England Patriots and John Bentley, Biz Over Beer Challenge, and I would drink to John despite the fact that he's a crummy New England Patriots fan.
I love it.
I love John. I hate that he's a New England Patriot.
I can think of my dear friend, the Woodards, right now. Chris Woodard, we worked with at 3 different stations. It's funny, we kind of followed each other. He was a KOIN reporter for many years. He is a huge Green Bay Packers fan. So I could definitely do that to him. And
Toast positive. Toast positive to him. Biz Over Beer Challenge.
Boom.
I
been
could
laid
do
down.
that. Although I have many a years when the Vikings were so bad that I could easily switch to a Packer fan, and people hate me for that. And I'm like, whatever. So what? I joined a bandwagon. Like, yes,
Whatever.
I worked in Wisconsin for many years. They are very easy to root for, the Badgers and the Green Bay Packers. So.
Well, if you decide to shotgun a beer, there's plenty of inspiration.
That's right. If you just do a quick search for hashtag Biz Over Beer Challenge on Facebook, you'll see a lot of great examples. Our favorite is our good friend Brian Shields biting into the can.
Oh, man.
I'm not sure he drank much of that beer, but that's for him and I to figure out on the other side of this.
Yeah, I'm good. I don't.
She's good. All
I
right.
don't think I could do that.
That's okay. So where can people find you, Jenifer, besides on KOIN 6?
Yeah, every night, 4, 5, 6, 10, 11 on Channel 6, and on Facebook and Twitter. You know, there's a little, I'm not on Instagram. I know it's a place to be, but I keep a pretty strong line between personal and professional. So I do not allow, that's my one little corner of
I get it.
account I don't want to continually have to update for people. So I'm very accessible on Facebook and Twitter. I appreciate conversation and messages and answer people pretty quickly. So everyone can find me there, Jenifer Hoff on all of them. I think Twitter's like Jen Hoff KOIN6 or something. So
Awesome. Cano.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, he did it. He did it.
Of course I did.
Where can people find Business Over Beer?
That is awesome.
They can find Business Over Beer at bizoverbeer.com, bizoverbeer.com. They can find our social media handles there. They can find links to our shows. They can watch shows there on via YouTube, audio podcasts. They can come see us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at our happy hours and drink and ask questions. Chat with Business Over
I
Beer.
mean, I have to say too that I had to ask a few questions before I decided to do this, and I have to say I thought you were just like a bunch of friends hanging out like doing this, but I am prouder to do this now, to learn. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday is a big deal. To think that like a group of people are doing this and are that committed to this 3 days a week. You guys told me you'd done about 50 episodes since, what'd you say, September?
Yep.
So that's deserves a round of applause. And for folks in this community, Portland, Vancouver, and our entire viewing area, follow along, play along, because they give a platform to local business, and that is huge, especially right now. So I think what you guys are doing is pretty awesome too. So hats off to you for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh man,
Jennifer.
thank you so much for that.
That's
Really
awesome.
appreciate that.
Commitment that takes is huge. I liked what you said, that most podcasts have on average 10, and then people don't really realize the commitment that it takes, and it just kind of like peters off from there. But the fact that you guys have gone that 3 days a week is pretty incredible. So again, hats off. That's pretty cool.
Thank you so much for that. That's awesome. Jenifer, thank you. Kaylor, thank you. Canope, thank you. Listeners and viewers, thank you. We will see you tomorrow, 5:30.
We'll be back right here, 5:30.
We'll be back.
Are you guys drunk a lot? Because you must be.
Uh-huh. We'll answer that question tomorrow.
maybe that'll be the gift card winning question.
Yes.
There you go.
There it is. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
See you next time. Good night.
Business Over Beer reminds you to always drink responsibly. Our theme song is Alley Cat by Soul Shifters. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you at the next Business Over Beer Happy Hour.
I think you're probably 8 years our junior, because the three of us are all the same age.
Yeah, I figured. Probably early 40s.
Yeah, I figured you guys were all old bastards.
That figures you guys are a bunch of old effers.
Yeah,
I had a
You
publisher.
get along great with my husband. He's an old bastard.
Well, he's not even quite as old as you guys, but when the average age at work